But first, is fear now the biggest thing that we should be worried about in terms of the impact that this pandemic could have on society? Well, Lionel Shriver, the Spectator columnist and author, certainly thinks so. She says hysterical safetyism is the mark of a society that has passed its peak in the new issue of The Spectator. And Lionel joins me now. Lionel, I did just have to share a little passage from this column where you refer to the situation we're in today in terms of some of our past heroes. And you say, with safety as a prime directive, Sir Ernest Shackleton would never have come anywhere near the South Pole because he might have got cold. David Livingstone would have found Victoria Falls only in order to wash his hands in it. Sir Francis Drake could never have set sail because rubberized non-slip decking had yet to be invented. And Winston Churchill would certainly not have sanctioned Dunkirk because someone might have got hurt. So I love those points. But the reality is perhaps everyone has just taken the government's messaging or propaganda, depending on how you look at it, a little bit too seriously. And in fact, it's going to take a while for the populace to get over that.
Yeah, I love this country, but I have to say that the way the British has behaved during this lockdown business has been pathetic.
Really?
Um,
But weren't we told to do it, Lionel? Isn't that what we were told to do? We were told to stay home, so we did it. Should we have been ignoring those directives?
I'm afraid that what people have done has been to relinquish their capacity for independent judgment. And that's partly because the government took away our ability to make judgments for ourselves. So we're too stupid and childish to make decisions based on calculated risk, which we do every day. And now the government is making those decisions for us. And it seems as if people want the government to continue to make those decisions for us.
Yeah, that's
Whereas,
what's
under
me.
ordinary circumstances, we decide to get in a car and we know that it's possible that we'll get into an accident. It could even be a deadly accident, but we take that risk. We get onto airplanes and we know that sometimes they crash, but we take that risk. And one of the creepiest things to come out of this epidemic has been that sign off on emails that's become fashionable. Stay safe. And to me, that's just setting such a low bar. I would much rather have a nice day.
Yeah.
At least it's a nice day. Instead, I'm just being told, oh, I hope you survive today. And that's as much as we expect.
And this week, we now have the government banning sex, essentially, with anyone who isn't in your direct household. So in some ways, even as the lockdown has been eased, some of the specific measures have become more draconian. And again, there's no public outcry about that.
Oh, I thought that story was kind of writ large. To what degree we are allowing the government to micromanage our lives, with whom we can have sex. And maybe next we'll have a little bubble and we can have sex within our bubble. I mean, we have allowed government to determine absolutely everything we do in our daily lives. And, that's been one of the scary things about the sacrifice of civil rights during this period is it's very easy to take civil rights away. It's hard to yank them back.
Well, I've found it scary how much my friends, who are on the whole professionals in their 30s and 40s, have actually loved being in lockdown. They have enjoyed life stopping. And my big concern is that, in fact, when the government desperately needs people to get back out, which is going to start happening, by the way, in a couple of weeks, to try and get this economy to recover, a lot of people want this long, hot summer holiday to go on.
No, of course it's great. I mean, it's based on a complete delusion that it's possible to carry this on. That we can just not work anymore. How fun, In some ways, this is an experiment in the universal income, right? That we get paid anyway. We don't produce anything. We don't do anything but go to the supermarket, and we buy our food with government money. It completely skips the little inconvenience that the government doesn't make any money and the government is spending our money. In fact, that's one of the big mistakes that people make in being so gratified to get these furlough checks. They're paying themselves. That's your money. You're actually taking out a loan against your future earnings.
And so how can you see it being turned around? Do you think the government, which has thus far during this crisis been following public opinion polling so closely, actually maybe needs to throw that out the window and start trying to change public opinion?
Oh, well, clearly the government is a victim of its own success. They have terrified the population, and that's a hard process to reverse. Um, you do remember that the lockdown was far more successful than they ever expected it to. I mean, the British people proved much more supine and biddable than they ever anticipated, and now that we have this, I mean, I partly do blame the weather. It's been so nice
Yeah.
that it creates this artificially halcyon atmosphere
Yeah.
of endless optimism, and the sun is constantly shining. All seems right with the world on a kind of environmental touch and feel level,
It
and
is.
therefore we're under aware
Yeah.
of the fact that while we're having this wonderful time, the world is actually falling apart.
It is fascinating though, because a lot of people who I speak to actually are annoyed with the people not being obedient enough. And I get a lot of people writing in to say, in fact, the British public haven't been able to follow the rules. And this is the reason why a lockdown works in a place like Japan or Sweden. Rather than hear what fascinating points, I could speak to you all day. Lionel Shriver, it is a brilliant column in the Spectator this week. Thank you so much for being here.